The practice range in Overwatch is terrible. I mean, it doesn't even have a basketball hoop. In today's video, we're going to go over some practical changes that Blizzard could make with relative ease that would make the practice range worth using. I was going to try to start this video by identifying the biggest problem the practice range has, but to be honest, it has a lot of problems. So the way we're going to do this video is we're going to identify a problem and then identify a solution that Blizzard could implement with relative ease. Nothing, like I said, that would involve fully reworking the practice range. Let's start by talking about this big area you see on screen here. In this area, you have 3 enemy bots and 3 allied bots. The 2 allied bots on the right are being shot at by the 2 enemy bots, and the 1 allied bot on the left is shooting an enemy bot. This is like the biggest area in the practice range, and it's right outside the spawn, yet it offers little to nothing to you. It's really just not ideal. The only use of having allies that get shot at is to practice healing, I guess, but there's no need for that. You don't need to know really often and how to heal people. It doesn't really make sense. So that is already a feature that can probably just be thrown out. And then as far as your bot that is shooting the enemy one, it also doesn't really have an application. There's no real point where you need to shoot at a target that's already damaged, but you don't know how much damage it's taken, and it's constantly taking damage from an ally. It really just seems so specific. This whole area here, this giant big practice range area, there's so much more that can be done here. Let's talk about what I think would make this area 10 times better. First of all, Overwatch has heroes that range from 150 health to 600 health with varying armor levels in between. We should definitely have some bots that represent more than just 200 HP, which I think is how much every bot has. So this area, being the biggest one in the whole practice range, would be perfect for that. I imagine just like something simple. Starting on the left side, you have a bot with 150 HP, and then to the right of him, 200 HP, and then a 250, and then maybe a 600 with varying levels of armor, maybe 3 600s with different levels of armor, a 500. You get what I'm saying here. We need more than just 200 HP bots. That way we can practice combos and see what would actually be lethal to different enemy heroes. It's honestly way more hassle than it's worth to go into a custom match, set it up so the enemy hero hopefully doesn't kill you, and then try to get in there and use your combo on it while it's shooting back at you. Just not ideal. It'd be so much easier to just click practice range, go into it, and just be able to practice your combos. Maybe your sleep combo as Ana. You can practice seeing how much damage a sleep, grenade, punch, shot combo would do without having to find someone else or go into a custom game. I think this change would be great. Furthermore, now this one is a little more complicated. This would require a little bit of reworking. They could just make it so they implemented a way where you could spawn the enemy heroes as non-moving bots in the game. So you could just like click a button, click spawn hero. Maybe there's like a menu screen next to where the current bot is standing, and you can spawn different heroes there that will just stand there. And all you can do is practice combos on them, and they'll respawn when they die. That would be pretty nice as well. It might actually be easier to do depending on, how Blizzard's code works. I'm not entirely sure, but this could be a pretty cool feature for testing it out. Up next, I'd like to talk about the area over here where the bots move around in and out of cover into this little building in the back and just, around the area. This area is the closest thing we've got to, I guess, aim training, where you can actually practice on moving targets that go in and out of cover. The problem with this area is it's just kind of clunky and slow. The bots take too long to respawn. They all move at a set speed. They all have the exact same hitbox. They all have the same headshot hitbox, which is massive, and it's just not ideal for aim training. I've got a few solutions here, and some of them are more difficult for Blizzard to implement than others, so let's go over them. I think some solutions would be to allow us to change the speed at which the bots move, the speed at which they respawn, maybe a movement style or pattern, maybe just very predictable. Maybe they try to switch directions a lot. And finally, the hard one here would be changing their size. It'd be great if Blizzard could just let us use hero models in this area, because then you could set it to someone like Tracer and have a Tracer just run back and forth. You don't even have to have her use her abilities. Her head hitbox is small enough to where that'd be kind of an intense aim training drill, and if you decrease the time it takes for her to respawn, well, you could have a pretty good aim training setup there without having too much difficulty. But let's assume Blizzard can't do that. I know they can if they put the time into it, but let's assume they can't and just have to change the size. I would love to be able to change maybe even just the size of the heads on the bots or the entire bot. I think the height on the bots is perfectly fine, but the head size is just huge. It's seriously bigger than Roadhog's head or Winston's old head. The head hitbox on these bots is not proportional to the height of them whatsoever. They're too big. It's too easy to hit them. So being able to change that would be a huge feature. And actually, we're going to talk about how we would be changing all of these things that I talk about in this video near the end of it. A sort of menu system I think Blizzard could definitely use. But for now, let's go back to this area. I think being able to change the size would be useful. Change how long it takes for them to respawn. Maybe making it like half a second at most, or even less than that, because you're aim training. You want to be intensely aiming and shooting in this area. And then I think finally, the speed and the way in which they move would be great. If these changes were implemented, this could be a really good aim training area for people that could either warm up there with like an easier setting or just actually train. Hop in when you've got some free time in your day, aim train a little bit before you sit down, you know, maybe later at night, and actually get your hardcore gaming session in. Just the convenience of having aim training would be 10 out of 10, and Blizzard should definitely consider adding something like this. That way people could do that. Another change Blizzard should definitely make is add some bots that fly around. It'd be great to have a bot that flew just for the sake of being able to pretend like it's a far out when you're aim training, and train your vertical tracking as well, because in the practice range it's fairly flat grounded. There's really no way to easily test how well you'll do shooting at enemies above or below you, so a flying target would be great to fix that. The next change isn't really a problem solver, but it would be so nice and would make practice range so useful I have to include it. And it's actually a set of two changes. I think they should incorporate one bot in the practice range that just sits still, that has two things attached to it. One, a damage indicator, and two, a range indicator. This would allow people to test multiple combos in different scenarios. For example, sometimes it might be useful as someone like McCree to see where your hard damage drop off is from an enemy that is like 250 HP. I want to know where I can, you know, three-shot them from the longest range, stuff like that. Having a damage indicator as well as a range indicator would really help you figure this stuff out. And by a damage indicator, I just mean something like you shoot the bot and it tells you how much damage you did to him. Maybe the number just kind of pops up above him somewhere or next to him, and the range indicator would be something that's just on like a screen next to him at all times. This would be super convenient, because right now there's no good way of really telling how far away you need to be with someone to really kill them in a certain number of shots. For someone like McCree, it's a pretty big deal, because once you hit your farthest like range drop off, you're not going to be dealing a lot of damage, and a difference of a few meters can make a difference. If we had this tool in the practice range, you could get a feel for optimal ranges, know where you're going to win fights and lose fights against different heroes, and really just hammer down the heroes you're best at by knowing their optimal ranges, as well as, you know, just other things. It also is useful for knowing other heroes' ranges. Like, let's say you don't play McCree, but you want to know how far away from McCree you should be when you're playing someone like Widowmaker. You could use this tool to figure that out and find out, you know, at this distance, McCree has no chance of killing me because he just doesn't deal any damage. Stuff like that would be very helpful. On a side note, this is kind of like a mini upgrade they should just do right now. Make it so you can swap heroes anywhere in the practice range. There's literally no reason I should have to walk to the spawn to switch heroes. Just let me switch wherever. There's no harm in that. Let's now talk about how you're going to customize the bots in-game. And I think this is a way Blizzard could implement with relative ease. I'm saying relative because, you know, I honestly don't know the inner workings of Overwatch. But anyway, I'm sure we're all aware of the system in which you make custom games with. And you can view your custom game settings and the lobby and all that while you're in a custom game. But the changes don't take effect until you restart it. I think Blizzard should just implement that in the practice range and make it so the changes happen live on the spot. Maybe it'd have to restart the practice range, but it would spawn you where you were before. Something like that would be great, because then you just give all the customizability to the player. You can set the bot's health, you can set your cooldowns to be lower if you want to just practice, you know, rolling around as McCree, something like that. They could make it so you change like the AI I mentioned, how you can change the way the bots move. You can make that a setting in this like menu here. You can add the practice range as a specific map in this menu and make that one of those maps' custom settings. It's definitely within Blizzard's grasp. They can do all these changes. They can make the practice range great. And I think these changes would be a great start to that, so I'd love to see something like that implemented. If there's any features you think would be cool, be sure to recommend them down below, and check out yesterday's video where I talk about some changes you might not have realized, like a way of instantly reloading as McCree. Check it out, links down below. I'll see you guys all later. Have a good one. Lone Hawk out.